but do it in a steady fashion. So you don't want to be sort of throwing your arms around here for paint to be going everywhere as such. But what you need to do is create this random application like this, okay? And I keep picking up all the time fresh paint. Now we know that there's flowers along the ground level, so I'm just going to tap into ground level here. If you're not used to tapping paint onto your paintings like this, let me just show you how I do it, okay? I hold the brush back here. I have, I mean, I do vary this grip a bit from time to time, but the point of the brush, the back end of the brush, as you can see, is sat somewhere in the palm of my hand. It's very loose. It's supported by the index and middle finger then, with a thumb on top. But then I turn it over, okay? This is very loose. I've often knocked the brush out of my hand when I'm tapping down. You cannot rigidly hold this brush. You will not get, you'll get very little paint out of the brush if you're choking, if you're really holding that brush really hard. It's got to be knocked out of your hand. You know, you can sort of knock it out all too easily. So keep this going. How much you do is it's a bit sort of how long is a piece of string. I'm certainly not holding back, put it this way, because a lot of this that you're seeing being applied right now is going to disappear because we are going to be putting in greens, slightly shadowy colors, and detail, of course, on top of that. So if I had to describe this color to you, I know it's on your screens at the moment, but in the flesh here, as I see it in the real life, it is a sort of orangey, peachy color, okay? Now, I'm just going to dare pick up a small amount of the cadmium red, or vermilion red in my case here, and I'm going to take a bit of the alizarin crimson here. So you can see here, by laying these paints out the way I have the options to go to the right and make my color cool, or go to the left into the yellow and make my color a lot warmer. Now, I would say, I would warn you that going warmer, warm colors do create a bit more mud than cool colors, and that's why I'm choosing to go to the right towards my alizarin crimson, okay, keeping things cooler, keeping things closer to pink rather than to orange, because I've already got the orange in here. Right, okay. Now, something I also do on top of this quite often is I'll take a little bit of white gouache. Yes, I'm going to have to show you my palette here again. Let me just place this out, then I'll show you my palette. So that was just white gouache. I've placed it up here, okay? I'm going to take, I haven't cleaned the brush. As you can probably see, that white is turning pink because I didn't clean the brush. With quite a bit of that white paint, I'm going to tap that into some places. So the idea being, of course, that we end up with a lot more flower on our roses than is actually in the photo. But we have to go a bit overboard because, as I say, we will lose some of this paint, this color, when other things start happening in the painting. So it's a sort of way of overcompensating or compensating, sorry, for the effects we want. Now you can see me just dotting out the odd cluster with the point of the brush here. I'm thinking of areas where I want to show a slightly more intense flower area. And now I'll do a little bit of that. So I'm taking, I should show you again. So I'm just picking up a little bit of the yellow on its own. And we'll say that perhaps up here, because if the light's coming from the right, this warmer mix is probably going to appear where the sun is hitting at the top of this climbing rose over here also. So, okay, right. Now, really what I should do is clean that off, okay? Because other than the alizarin crimson, everything else is very opaque. And trust me, opaque paints stick to your palette surface like mad. They really don't want to come off once they've dried on. The more opaque a color is, the harder it is to get off your palette. So it seems a bit of a waste, but I'm just going to get rid of this paint. Now I'm just looking at my painting before I do ditch it. I'm just wondering whether I just pick up do a little bit more of those colors, just sort of on the right hand side mostly. Yeah, I think that's okay. I think that will do it. Now it is also very important that there is plenty of white still in between the pattern. In amongst all that spattering, there's plenty of white paper. Okay, I'm going to go back to cleaning my palette off here. So a bit of spritz. Here we are. I always put too much paint out. You don't have to follow me with that one, folks. I think sometimes I feel as though sometimes I have to overcompensate so that it comes across on the camera better. That's my excuse anyway. So here we go. Next up on this is to stick with the same brush. This is the big round brush. I'm going to deliver some water up here because when you look at that wall, it's quite warm. It's a sort of pale yellow, cream, a typical Cornish sort of cottage color. It is that sort of Cornish cream colored. And what I'm doing here is I'm not picking up any paint because I've just wiped it all off my palette, as you saw. But I'm very carefully moving around the shape of what's going to be the climbing rose. So I'm painting the wall, quite literally, I'm painting the wall of the cottage. I want to bring a little bit more yellow into it. So I'll go to my normal paint well over here, pick up a little bit of yellow. Be quite mean with this. That's quite strong, but I intend moving it around a lot. So no more paint for the moment, just water. And as I say, as soon as I get anywhere near my climbing rose area, I'm very conscious of the edge that I'm creating because it's around there that you will show off the shape of that climbing plant. Okay. Right. The rest of this. It's what you've got to be really mindful of here is the white of the little subtle little shapes and edges that you're leaving white. Okay. So we've forfeited in the photo, of course, there's a lot more wall exposed here, just to the left of this nearest window. We haven't got, excuse me, we haven't got quite that much, as much wall. So we only just need to show a little bit of the yellow of the wall to the left of that window. Same down here. So this is just moving weak paint around. All I'm doing here is moving very weak paint around over the walls and into areas that are not a plant or a shrub or whatever it is that's growing. Right, okay, so I'm okay with that. I think because this is a lovely sort of warm, this is a lovely warm foreground, I'm going to bring a little bit of that yellow, perhaps a bit of the red back in, actually. I'll just put some red paint in my normal well. There's that color there. Now, I deliver that amount of paint here, okay? But then from there on in, it's water. My brush has been placed in the water tub here, and I'm deliberately making that wash very weak. So there we are. Now I think the best thing we can do here is speed dry this. I'm just having to remind myself now that there's that little hit of sunlight, isn't there, on that wall just there. So I'm just placing that bit of sunlight on the wall there. The roof of that little area is mostly warm because it's in the sunshine, but there is a dark area at the back which we will tackle separately. Excuse me. Okay, I'm going to speed dry this because I think it's probably quite important now for us to get some of the detail in this painting. I'm just lifting off, sorry, I'm stopping this for a second just to let you know what I'm doing. There are areas where I think it'd be nice to see some texture in that wall. So I'm using a clean tissue and taking some of that off. Okay, I think that's dry enough. It doesn't have to be bone dry. It's really more than anything else just to stop me spoiling the paint with my hand when I'm painting. So I'm going to just pop in some windows here, and I've picked up the small brush, the small pointed brush, and I'm putting out some fresh paint. Oh, I meant to put out ultramarine then, that's cobalt. I will need some cobalt probably later, but not right now. So ultramarine blue, a little bit of burnt sienna. That's my sort of go-to dark color mix when I'm doing a bit of detail like this. And as you know, I'll often use a pickle jar lid because that saves the paint from getting too contaminated with water. So I tend to put the blue blue on one side and the burnt sienna on the other, and I can go between the two if I want this little dark mix to get cooler or warmer. But it has a bias towards the blue more than anything else. Okay, just going to dry brush. So you see the delivery of this type of mix. This is a reason why I isolate it from the rest of the palette. It really has to be almost like one of these adhesives that you have to mix these two-part epoxies. It's very viscous, you know, it's very sticky. And then there's a window sill slightly broader down here, it seems. We'll put the window panes in a moment. I just want to sort of outline these the main shape of the window first of all. Make sure I've got these lines right. Probably all we need for the top window for the moment. Remember that line there, if we were to run all the way across, is running on the same line as there, as is the bottom sill of that one. It's all running on the same line there. this line here on the bottom windows is running through this line, as is running through that upper line on the bottom window. Can't see much of this window, to be honest, over here. It's obscured by the rose, the hanging rose. Other areas to sort of outline just for the moment are this roof line just there, under here somewhere. Remember, as I said, even here you've got a hint that the line is going down from left to right. Even though you're only hinting upon this line underneath this little roof, these lines that I'm doing here, of course, are just diagonals. They're in their own league, if you like. They're in their own sort of camp. It seems as though we can see the glass in the doorway about there, something like that. And I always find that you've got to use a lot more of the the ultramarine blue in this mix than the burnt sienna. The burnt sienna really is there just to darken the blue, not really to color it. So lines running through here, very random, a very hit and miss delivery of paint here, and it goes straight into what is the bench.